Okay, so I was thinking that for today's very special Christmas edition episode, we could analyze the downfall of Be Better. But in order to do this the best way that we can, we actually have to go deeper than we've ever gone before. We have to go all the way to the basement to understand and analyze the physical structure of social media itself, because everything that happened with me stemmed from this foundation. So, social media at its most basic level is inherently and by its very nature a theatrical play. And we can see this because it has all of the exact same elements. We have the stage, which is the For You page where content is put on display for everybody to see. We have the performers, who are the content creators, who put themselves out there for your entertainment. And then, of course, we have the lovely audience members, the people who comment, the people who observe, and the people who like videos and whose likes really are akin to them applauding performances that they enjoy. But there's a very important element that keeps every play going and often goes unnoticed on social media. This is, of course, the script. So the script is basically the unspoken set of rules that shapes what people say and how they behave. And it's driven by the narrative, which is the emotional storytelling that carries everything forward. The word narrative literally comes from the Latin word that means to storytell. And on social media, the script emerges from the collective emotions of what the audience feels and what they want to see. So the script acts as a double-edged sword. On the one end, it rewards those who follow it. It rewards them with validation, with followers, and in TikTok's case, with actual money. But on the other side, it also punishes those just as strongly who go off script. And this brings us to the inciting incident of my downfall. So on August 27th, I posted a video critiquing the marketing strategy of the Harris campaign. I highlighted reasons why I thought their current strategy would ultimately not be successful, as well as ways they could have adjusted it to prevent an outcome that was statistically likely, but not being accurately represented or taken seriously on TikTok. Now, I didn't fully know it at the time because I didn't receive my script in the mail, maybe because I'm Canadian, but in August, the script on TikTok was clear. The Harris campaign was infallible, success was inevitable, and anyone who dared to suggest otherwise was committing an act of treason or blasphemy or helping the other side. So I was backstage witnessing a lot of the performers, aka the content creators, who were very deep in their roles and getting tons of praise, adulation, and applause for doing the simplest performances, such as dunking on Bryce Hall. This was a surefire way to get tons of engagement because it satisfied the emotional needs of the audience at the time and followed along with the underlying script. So I recognize these acts of performative virtue signaling for exactly what they really were, which was cheap emotional fixes and really a distraction. And I stupidly thought that I could spark a more meaningful conversation I felt needed to be had. So I decided to step on stage in the middle of their performances and break the fourth wall. And I attempted to speak to the audience directly, and I told them, what you're witnessing is a show. It's not grounded in reality, and if you don't change course now, Donald Trump will win. So at this point, simply booing me off the stage and moving on was not an option because I disrupted the very foundation of the narrative itself. And like any good plot, you can't just simply leave a loose end hanging, you have to fold it into the story and the show must go on. So the fellow performers sensed the audience's outrage, readjusted their performances, their roles, and then recast me in the play as the villain. And I have to say, they did a fantastic job. Almost overnight, the conversation was immediately directed away from my original critique and laser focused on attacking me personally. Nepo baby, scammer, liar, fraud, Trump supporter. It didn't matter that none of this was true. All that mattered was that it appeased the emotional reactions of the audience and continued the narrative that they had already invested in. But here's the thing. Even after the play had ended, the audience still wasn't satisfied. They wanted a final act. They wanted me dragged to the alley behind the theater and shot, because they even leaked my home address and encouraged violence against me. So if that doesn't show you the lengths to which people will go to protect the script, I don't know what will. And what makes this system so insidious is how instinctual it is. No one consciously decides to follow the script. It's just something that happens. And I know because I've done it. And when I did it, I didn't realize it. When I look back at my content, I feel that about 80% of it was original ideas that I had, or me saying something new that I felt should be included in a conversation. But I also have some videos, like one I did on Clinton Kane, one I did on Blake Lively, that when I look back and I ask myself why I posted that, understanding this framework, I know the reason I posted it. I posted it because it was easy to post, because I didn't have to do any critical thinking. I could just turn my brain off and subconsciously follow a script that was written for me. And I genuinely did not realize it at the time. And it's now been a huge informative takeaway from this experience for me for what I want my content to be going forward, at least for the next month before TikTok gets banned. So what I want people to take away from my downfall is just the awareness. If the performers can become aware of the fact that they're performing, and they're going to deny it and say they're not, but it's just a fact that human beings act differently when they're being observed. And then the audience can become aware of the fact that what they're watching is a play, then we can all engage in social media in a more critical, conscious, sober, awake way that will hopefully allow us to have disagreements without wanting to each other. Okay, so now I'll clear up some of the lies. Number one, you're a Nepo baby. I have actually been self-employed for years now. Number two, you were paid by Trump. I've never been paid by anybody to post a video, let alone him. But in regard to the entire conspiracy theory about where I work, I don't work at the company people had tried to associate me to. And when I did work there, I worked for a separate organization located in Canada that has nothing to do with government contracts. This was conflated with a separate organization in the United States, which, by the way, has had government contracts with every administration for the past 30 years, including the Biden-Harris administration. But of course, those details had to be excluded because they went against the script. Number three, your degrees are fake. All of my education is real, as you confirmed when you called my school and harassed them and asked. But as for using it in my content, it really was a joke. I was throwing it, breaking the frame. It was meant to be funny. Now for the many lies about my small business, Be Better. So I'll start by explaining what I actually sell. I do not sell regular honey. These are called electuaries. Electuaries are functional botanical blends that are suspended in honey due to honey's unique ability to act as a preservative as well as delivery system for the botanical blends to the human body. So when I was studying herbalism, I learned that every plant is basically a chemical factory that produces a variety of different compounds that have a spectrum of benefits for human health. So then the question becomes, what is the best method to absorb them? Tea is obviously a very popular method, but one of its drawbacks is because it's a water infusion, it can only effectively extract the water-soluble constituents from the plant, thus leaving some beneficial compounds behind when you go to drink it. So this is one of the reasons why capsules have skyrocketed in popularity lately, because they allow you to do two things. Number one, they allow you to consume a standardized dose of botanical medicine in a convenient form. And they also allow you to effectively swallow the plant whole, and by extension, its full range of beneficial compounds. But one of the drawbacks I learned about capsules is this. So the second that you take a herb like saffron from its pure form to its powdered form in order to put it inside of a capsule, the amount of surface area that's exposed to oxygen rapidly and dramatically increases by like 1,000,000 times. And by extension, a chemical process called oxidation occurs, which degrades the potency of the active chemicals that give it its functional benefits for human health. For example, the crocin and the safranol, which are the chemicals inside of saffron that give it its mood-boosting properties, degrade. We can see a similar phenomenon occur in an example, like if you cut an apple into a bunch of little slices, the amount of surface area that's exposed to oxygen will increase, and all of these little pieces will turn brown. A similar thing happens on a microscopic level when we powder herbs. So this is where honey comes in. The same properties that make honey never expire also make it an ideal environment to preserve the herbs because it creates a protective barrier around them and traps them away from oxygen. Therefore, you can consume the functional medicinal benefits of the botanicals for a much longer period of time. We're talking 5 years versus 6 months. I wish that people could fully understand how much easier and cheaper it would have been to simply put my blends inside of capsules. But once I learned that electuaries are the better method, I knew I had to pursue it, and that's what the better means in Be Better. So I developed and patented the infusion process for my products myself, which has allowed me to create the world's first standardized electuary and take something from ancient Greece and reimagine it for the modern world. And I'm so proud of my products and the impacts that they've had on people's lives.